and it needs to be open source to really reshape the digital economy in the future. So together with 6 other counterparties, last year we agreed that under Linux Foundation we would like to have this initiative. When we launched it in December, there was the 26 companies already, different industries, different organizations across the businesses. And right now we have more than 200 participants, and it is open source community. So to have the logo, put it on the Linux Foundation website, you need to pay something, but to contribute, it's for free. It's for every one of us, every developer. And at the beginning, just when we launched the project, we donated more than 44,000 lines of code to the project. And within the IBM, the blockchain team, it's kind of the startup in the big corporation, extremely big corporation. So it's really a pleasure to be involved in all those initiatives around the blockchain. So we have a group of the developers, which all of them, they only contribute to the Hyperledger project, and this is their main job, developers and cryptographers. Because one of our main role in this project is also to support and contribute into cryptographic algorithms. And part of our, donation codes, they are related to the privacy management. I will talk about this in a second. So I would like to introduce four components of the Hyperledger fabric architecture. And within the Hyperledger, we have 3 main architecture programs. The biggest one is a fabric, and I will focus on this one. The another one is the smile-expo. It's led by Intel, and this one is focusing on the Internet of Things. Usage of blockchain for the Internet of Things in general area. But this one is about the fabric. So just for those of you who would like to check on the GitHub, it's about the fabric architecture. And I would like to focus about the 4 components. Critical somehow from our perspective, how we see that blockchain can be used by businesses. It will be about the ledger itself, about the smart contracts, about the consensus and privacy. Ledger and smart contracts, they are part of the, I will say, functional areas. The consensus and the privacy management is part. And probably you know that IBM is mostly, it does its business with the corporation, with other companies. We don't do business with the end users. So, looking at the blockchain potential usage, we look from our client's perspective, the government institution, the financial institution, also from the startup perspective. But, our clients are companies, other companies, and and we know that they can benefit from the blockchain in the different ways. So the distributed decentralized ledger, first of all, can help to optimize current business. On the other hand, distributed ledger together with distributed consensus, it's a big area for a business model innovation, totally new product innovation, new ways of doing business or businesses. So let's jump to the first component. It's a ledger. So as we know, the ledger is distributed. It is append only. It is decentralized. So when I introduce the concept to the clients, I like to talk to them that there is one ledger, but every counterparties within the business network or with all the network participants, they have the same copy, replicated using the peer-to-peer mechanism. So there is no one ledger in the middle, but all of them, they have the same ledger. The key really, and the more revolutionary for the business is the consensus. And the consensus is the way how the transaction are agreed and how the ledger is kept in synchronized. And looking from our client's perspective, we see that the consensus, especially in the future, needs to be pluggable. So there is a need to have maybe different algorithms for the consensus for different businesses. And maybe for the public blockchains, when we have anonymous participants, we need more powerful algorithms like the mining, proof of work. In the private network, and especially for our clients, mostly they want to go into private blockchain, consortium blockchain. There is no need for that powerful cryptographic algorithms. So we can choose one of the lighter algorithms. Right now, in the Hyperledger project, we have, no need to agree any transaction. There is just maybe internal information sharing or internal ledger, and the PBFT, so practical Byzantine fault tolerant. And all of them, they are, the PBFT is known for years before even the Bitcoin was, as a concept, was introduced to the market. It seems to be one of the best consensus right now for the private blockchain, when we know participants, but also when it's like it's right weight between the security and the cost. Yeah, in the proof of work, the cost of the consensus is really high, and maybe there is a need for that expensive algorithm. Yeah, but the waste of the computation power is really high. So because in most of the cases the ledger for our clients will be permissioned, so we can manage the permissions to the ledger, we can manage the rights, the roles, and we can manage the privacy. We can choose lighter consensus algorithms, and PBFT is the first choice which can be applied right now, but we want to make more algorithms in the community, and I think they are in the roadmap for the next year. Operational parts, so smart contract, popularized by Ethereum to the market, and for the business there's a lot of potential to use smart contract to encode to the chain additional business logic. So, and these capabilities already in the Hyperledger project, which will help people to implement, to develop smart contracts. From the development perspective, right now you can write this in Go language or Node.js. There are plans to introduce 2 other languages for the next year, but it is not ready yet. I think that the most important part is the privacy. So, there is a difference between anonymity and privacy. Anonymity is like, the cash transaction. I know what I'm buying, from whom I'm buying, what I'm buying, but I don't know anything about the person who are making the transaction. So I know what you are doing, but I don't know anything about you. Privacy means that I know you, but maybe there is no need to public all your information and business transaction. And in the Hyperledger project, looking from the business perspective, we see that in the business ecosystem, usually companies, they know with whom they deal with. On the other hand, they also need to have their information private. Even on the same market, like for example, car market, if I'm the car producer and I have different car dealers, car distributors, I can have different business rules, different commercial terms between them. So even if all of them, they will use the same blockchain-based ledger, where they will keep all the transaction, related to the changing ownership of the cars. Maybe I want to keep my transaction private. So here in the Hyperledger fabric, we have all the whole component related for the membership management. And on the top of them, we have 2 additional certificates. So the cryptography is used not only in the consensus, but we also use the cryptography to additional certificates, the enrollment certificates, and one-time valid transaction certificates. And why we introduce this? It helps us to keep the transaction details visible only for those parties who make the transaction. So and also it helps us to the participant ID to be untrackable within the ledger. So all participants, they have the same ledger, but they cannot see the details of the transaction. They can see transaction they make with other parties. It can be used, it doesn't have to be used. If there is no need, if you want to experiment with the Hyperledger and build the public blockchain, you can also do this. But looking from the business perspective at the current implementation we already did, it is useful. And it is the way how we can promote adoption of the blockchain for the business. So here's a summary about the potential different roles that can be implemented based on the Hyperledger project, fabric. And we can see one thing here, the regulator. So one of the role we have, it's full access to the ledger. And it is extremely useful for the compliance use cases. When, instead of providing number of reports to the regulators, we can give them full access to run the reports and analysis based on the ledger. So just summarize, what is Hyperledger? Yeah, it is. So we would like to create open standard based on the open source to really promote the adoption of the blockchain technology. It should be, in our opinion, like HTTP right now, something almost invisible, which help business to exchange information or to make the transaction. It can be public or private, and we can manage the privacy, so it is permissioned. And the goal is really to create something which can be used by different industries or cross-industry. Because all of us, we know that, if we will have more participants in the network, the more benefits is from the blockchain. On top of the Hyperledger, put on the cloud the same code, so the fabric code to our cloud, to Bluemix. So if any of you want to experiment, so creation of the blockchain network up for 4 nodes, it's for free. So I really recommend to all of you to try to do this, to try to write the smart contracts, to experiment with the privacy, with roles, with the how does it work, yeah? And for the I will talk a little bit about the use cases, but most of the discussion we have right now, they are with government institution, not with financial. And there is a lot of registries there, and even for the internal usage within the government, they can benefit from this technology. So especially for them, there is some hardware offering, of course, from IBM. This is not the latest version of the presentation, but don't worry. So I wanted to talk about few references. All of them, they are quite hot. All of them, they are from this year, and some of them, they are extremely interesting, I think. So the Credit Mutuelle Arkea in France, they just finished the first project implementation based on the Hyperledger, and they use blockchain as a consortium network with their partners to confirm client's identity. So know your customer functionality. I think it's, and this is the first implementation, but in the future, they want to monetize this service. They want to offer this service for other, in general, for other companies, and somehow make money out of this. A lot of, few implementation at the stock exchange, like Japan for the trading. The London Stock Exchange, they set up based on the Hyperledger, the innovation platform, so they are rather experimenting and invite the fintech or startup ecosystem to join them and experiment based on the Hyperledger. Another example is ABN AMRO. So they implement the blockchain to, for it's internal private blockchain for all countries. They operate in many countries all around the world, so they want to benefit from some internal settlement conciliation between countries, and it is already in production. Some interesting examples from the government. So, for example, the Dutch government, they think about the driver and vehicle register based on blockchain, but because they are still emerging, we know about this. So they implement the first pilot about the bicycle register. So they have in 3 cities, there is the bicycle register based on the blockchain, and they want to gather the citizens' feedback, how it is useful. The city bikes are part of this project, so they also can see how blockchain can be used for other public services in the cities, and what they can benefit from this. Any questions?
Hi, I have a question about trading example. You said that they're experimenting right now, but what about the latency and the fact that currently on Hyperledger we have 2-3 minutes before transaction goes to ledger? So is it about only netting and post-trade settlement, or is it
Post-trades.
only on the post-trades?
Right now it's only for the post-trades, and it's a in our opinion, blockchain is not for the real-time instant payment, for example, transaction. So still delay even in the Bitcoin network comparing to the Visa or MasterCard. We know it's like few transactions per second comparing to thousands transactions per second. But still, like for the letter of credit, for the corporate banking, the savings, instead of doing this in 20 days, 15 days, we can do this in few minutes.
Okay, and a small technical question. You say that there is a concept of auditors for the regulators.
Compliance, yeah.
And so it means that we will have a multi-signature, or how it's going to be implemented practically? Because I saw some tree structure of certificates or something like that in the security definition, but it's quite not clear how practically it's going to be.
So there are 2 types of the certificates. So there is this certificate authority and the enrollments participants of the network. When they join, they get this enrollment certificates, and then they are one-time disposal transaction certificates. So, and each transaction, but for the regulators, they got this role, special role, that they don't need all these transaction certificates to see the whole ledger. I can send you the paper about the concept is based on the identity mixer algorithms, and they were developed like in the late 60s, but never used because there was no need for this type of the solution. And right now we're back to those algorithms, like they can help us with assuring this.